and it's on page Samach Tes, Daf Samach Tes, the second column. When the Baal Shem Tov passed away, when the Heilige Baal Shem Tov passed away, his son Reb Tzvi took over for him. Reb Tzvi was a very big tzaddik and had all the beautiful qualities of his father. But the Chevraya Kadisha were very scared because he had a softness to him that was sort of his Achilles' heels. He had the sweetness and softness, and it was the Hisnagdus, the Misnagdim were mounting a strong thing against the Torah of Baal Shem Tov, and it required someone who is not only holy and not only has the stature of the Baal Shem Tov, but also has the takifas of the Baal Shem Tov to fight back. But obviously no one said anything. When it was the first yahrzeit of the Heilige Baal Shem Tov, and it was Chag HaShavuos, the whole Chevraya Kadisha came together, and all to spend together Chag HaShavuos. At the Fabrengen, at the Suda of Chag HaShavuos, Reb Tzvi was sitting at the head, Yoshev Berosh, at the head of the table, with the begotten, with his clothing of his father, the Heilige Baal Shem Tov. And he announced, after he said the Shtikl Torah, he got up and he announced. He said, my father came to me last night and told me that the entire Pamalya Shalmaila had gone over to his dear student, Rebberenu Bereb Avram. And I ask you, please give him the mantle of leadership. And together you will have a tzlocha. I want him to sit in your place, and you should sit in his place. And it will be Pnishnayim Beruchai. Just like, in other words, just like Eliyahu Hanavi said to Elisha, that you will be double of I, and as the Gemara describes that the miracles that Elisha did was double of Eliyahu Hanavi. So he said that Berenu will be Pnishnayim, he'll be double of what I was. And immediately he took off his jacket, his Beged Elyon that he had from his father. And it seemed that without any hesitation at all, the Berenu, who later turned out to be called the Maagid of Mezrich, got up. He came to the head of the table. He put on the jacket. Reb Tzvi went to sit down in the place of the Maagid. I mean, Chazal say that this is like unbelievable. Usually if a person is Oila L'Gdula, we spoke about this the other day, that Rabbi Yeshua said, if someone told me Oila L'Gdula, I'd knock him over his head. I'm not interested to be the Rosh Hashiva. But now that I am the Rosh Hashiva, someone's going to tell me to step down. I'll take a kumkum shalchamen and they'll deliver it over his head. I'll take a pot of hot water and pour it over his head. The Gemara says that an exception of a few people, and even that, the question was, what was the motivation that they stepped down of leadership? It's a very tough thing. And here Reb Tzvi was like flawless. He gave over the mantle of leadership to the Maagid of Mezrich and the rest of history. The Maagid was Pishnaim, he had double the amount of students and double amount of power of the Baal Shem Tov. And he really, the Maagid and Talmid HaMaagid really conquered the world. Today, you hear Chassidus, you don't even know, people are telling over Torah from the Lakutei Torah, Lakutei Sichos, and I might not know, it's a Klisheni or Klishlishi, Kli Revi. But that's it's Mola Oretz Deis Hashem. The Maagid immediately sat down and he started to say a Torah on the words of the pasuk Marahihem ומעשיהם כשהיה oifan b'soich oifan, which is the Haftorah of Chag HaShavuos. This was Chag HaShavuos. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam she'akol midvari. By the way, also strengthens the Rebbe's opinion. There is a dispute. When was the Baal Shem Tov nifter, the first or second day of Shavuos? And this story happened on the first, this story presumably happened on the first day of Shavuos, because that's the Torah. The Torah is the Torah of that day. So the Shulchan Aruch says that the person that reads the Haftorah is supposed to be an Adam Gadol and Adam Chashuv. Why? Because this is a unique Haftorah. We read the Haftorah of Yecheskel. What's the connection of Yecheskel and Aseres Adibris. What's the connection? The connection is that B'Shas, the Eibishter gave the Torah. He opened up the skies, and the Yidden were able to see everything. They were able to see the entire Maisa Merkava, the entire heavenly chariot. And just like Yecheskel describes the chariot, presumably every Yid saw it B'Shas Matan Torah. And therefore, it's considered a very choshev Haftorah, and you have to have an Odom choshev to read this Haftorah. So obviously, you need a little bit of explanation when you're talking about the Merkava, the heavenly chariot. Things are coming and things are going, things are flying. There's chashmal, which was a beautiful word that in Israel they use today for electricity. The opening words of the Navi is, and the beginning of Yecheskel, Hoyo, Devar Hashem al Yecheskel ben Buzi HaKohen beretz Kazim al Narkvar v'tiya lo of Shem Yad Hashem. V'eda, and he saw a vision. He was Niftachu Shamayim ve'ere Maris Alakim. The heavens opened, and I saw the vision of God. Ve'eda v'hine ruach sa'ora b'minat sof von onen godel ve'esh mislakachas v'noigel asoviv v'metoiche kein ha'chashmal metoiche ve'esh. He saw this chashmal in the fire. Umetoiche demus arba chayes. And he describes the 4 chayes. What we know as the Chazal described us, that there is Seraphim, Chayas, and Efanim, which is, as we learned in the Maamar leading up to Chag HaShavuos, between Lag BaOmer and Shavuos, the Maamar v'Nigdashti. And we're also learning now the Pirush Amilas and the Oimek Hatfila and the Birchas Krishma. The Seraphim, Chayas, Efani, HaKodesh, Seraphim in the world of Bria, Chayas in the world of Yetzirah, Efani, HaKodesh are in the world of Asiyah. So he describes the Chayas. He describes the Chayas and what they look like. He says, Demus Pneim, Pnei Odom, Pnei Arya la Yamin la Rabatam, Pnei Sherma Smar la Rabatam, Pnei Nesher la Rabatam. I'm reading only the psukim that are relevant, that will be relevant soon in the discussion on this Maamar. He saw the chariot, the 4 carriers of the chariot, sort of the 4 wheels of the chariot, that they each have 4 faces, just like the human face. There's 4 sides to it, but the eyes, the nose, and the mouth is only on one side. But in the heavenly chariot, they all have 4 sides to them. And the front is Pnei Odom. And on the right, it's Pnei Arya, and on the left is Pnei Shod. And in the center, which is on the other side, is Pnei Nesher. And the Musa Chayes Marim Kagachala Yesh Boyeres Kamara Lapidim Himis Aleches Ben Achayes Veish Venoigaloesh Minaish Yotza Vorak Veda Achayes Vino Oifen Echad Boritz Eitz Lachayes Larbata Aponov. That next to the Chayes there was these angels that were on a lower level. They're called the Oifan. Oifan is really a wheel. And he describes what they look like. And he says, that when the Chayas elevate themselves, the Efanim try to go up with them. The spirit of life that is in the Efanim come from the Chayas HaKodesh, which is one level higher than them. Obviously, there is billions of Malachim. The Gemara says, there's no amount. There is within each gedud there is a number, but but we're talking within every oilam there's certain malachim, and in the middle class there is the top class, the middle class, and the low class, and the bottom class. Top class is the seraph, and the middle class are the chayes, and the bottom class is the efanim. So the pasuk says, "Marahiim ומעשיהם." The pasuk says, "Kashayi ha'oifam b'soicha oifen." Marahiim. What do the fanim look like? Maasehim. What is the actions of these oifanim? Kashayi ha'oifam b'toicha oifan. What does that mean? What does that mean? So again, in the older Mefarshim are going to say things and as sort of an allegory, but not pshat. Because what does it mean, like a wheel in a wheel? What is a wheel in a wheel? So what? I mean, what's the point of saying it's like a wheel in a wheel? So the Meforshim, Rashi says that they went all 4 directions. It wasn't 2 dimensions, 4 dimensions. Still, what does that mean? What does that mean? So the Maamid, in this Maamid, the Maagid explains what this means. Before we start the Maamid, there's one more story. When the Alter Rebbe was in prison, the Frierdiker Rebbe tells the story that the Alter Rebbe had visitors. The Baal Shem Tov and the Heilige Maagid came to visit the Alter Rebbe. And the Maagid turns to the Alter Rebbe and says, please tell over a Torah. And the Alter Rebbe tells over the Torah. And according to one girs in the story, when he finished, the Baal Shem Tov turns to the Maagid and he says, wow. He mamish says it ois be'ois the way I told it to you. According to the other girs in the story, which the Frierdiker Rebbe tells, is that the Alter Rebbe explained it besignon shaloi. The Alter Rebbe said mamish the Maamid, but he used his own words. It wasn't. He didn't just parakeet the Maamid. He paraphrased it. He said it over the way he understood it. The Rebbe didn't go in the Safabrengen of Chag Shavuos Tov Shalamed Beis to reconcile. I mean, you could say many explanations to reconcile the story. When the Frierdiker Rebbe said that he said it according to his signon, not necessarily that was at that time. When he said it in the Torah Or, he said it according to his signon. When he told it to the Baal Shem Tov and the Maagid, he said it word for word. But maybe a different explanation. But that we leave for everyone over the Chag Shavuos to reconcile the 2 stories. Obviously, this is a very important Maamid. This is the first Maamid. The Maagid said, well, you have to realize when the Maagid sits down and he takes the Nesias, this is like his inauguration Maamid. Obviously, there is something really powerful in this Maamid. And when the Alter Rebbe is in prison, and the question is about the future of Torah Chasidus, that's which is now put in question, and there's a kitrug against Torah Chasidus, and the Maagid says to the Alter Rebbe, say a Torah. In other words, that Torah should be something to bring out the importance of Torah Chasidus and why it's critical for Klal Yisrael to have it, and that should answer the kitrug. Just like when the Torah was given, that the Satan had a kitrug to make, and the Malachim had kitrugim to make. And the Eibishter says to the Moshe Rabbeinu that he should answer the Malachim. And even though Moshe Rabbeinu is mefachad, the Eibishter says, don't be scared, hold on to the Kisei HaKavod, but Moshe Rabbeinu has to answer. Same thing here, the Alter Rebbe must defend and explain what is the importance of Pnimius HaTorah and why it's critical for Pnimius HaTorah to be revealed to every man and woman and child even before Bias Mashiach Tzidkenu. And this is the Maamid that he picks to say. So obviously there's a connection to this Maamid and to the Yisoid of the Shittas HaChasidus in Avodas Hashem, of the Maagid and the Baal Shem Tov, the Maagid and the Alter Rebbe, of the 3 Avos HaChasidus. Let's start the Maamid. Pirush Kemoi Mareim Asem Kasher Yiyah Oifam B'Soicha Oifam. Pirush, what does that mean? What is the words that he saw the Chayes HaKodesh, the middle class, he saw the lower class, which is the Oifanim, which is, sorry for using this language, top class, middle class, bottom class, expensive seats and cheap seats. I'm just trying to clarify that we have the 3 levels of this Serafim, Eilam HaBriya, and then there's the Chayes, Eilam HaYetzirah, and Nefane HaKodesh, which is, I mean, the lowest level. Obviously, low here is quite high. Pirush, Kamoi Oifen Kotten B'Tech Oifen Gadol. Just like when you have 2 wheels, a small and a big, Oifen HaGadol HaSoivev, Oifen HaKotten, L'mayla, Gavoy Min Oifen HaKotten, Ulamat, B'Tachdis, Oifen HaKotten, L'mayla, Min HaGadol. Instead of explaining, I'll just show you a picture. two wheels. I mean, obviously, there's one dimension. I have one dimension here, but you can visualize the rest. But these are the two wheels, a big wheel and a small wheel. So who is on top and who is on the bottom? The big wheel is on top and the small wheel is on the bottom. But if you look at the bottom of the wheels, the big wheel is on the bottom and the small wheel is on the top. And that's the idea of the Oifanim. And the way the Oifanim work. If you look at the Meforshim, many Meforshim bring up the point that the Eibishter created the entire world as a reflection of this. The way that Rambam describes the galaxies and the way all the entire universe, that everything is Kegilde Betzolim, especially, and then you have the Igul HaGodel, that everything is like a ball and circles, and they're orbiting within each other. Wheels are spinning. There's a series of wheels and wheels and wheels. Some are smaller wheels and larger wheels, and some orbit within their own little thing, and some orbit throughout the entire thing, and the entire hemisphere. And then there's the Igul HaGodel, the big wheel that surrounds everything. So the angels, this world is a reflection of what happens in the higher worlds, which is the Oifen HaKotten b'toich Oifen HaGodel. What's the point? What's the inyan? We say Kachu Ruach HaChaya B'Oifanim, that the pasuk says that there's the Ruach HaChaya in the Oifanim. The Loksiv Ruach HaChayos. There's 4 Chayos. It doesn't say there was Ruach HaChayos. It doesn't say Ruach HaChayos. It should say plural. There's 4 Chayos, as we said. The Dalat Chayos ain't b'merkava. Ela inyan. Shekadelius a ruach daikem mokem elyon miyoid shalamayla mata shavan lafon of kimashu yoiser elyon yochid later lamata l'spasha lamata. The highest could go to the lowest. Okay, before I'm going to go back to read it again, but just want to explain a very important yisoid of Chassidus. 3 mishalim for this. If you want to light, if it's dark and you want to light up a large area, you need a huge avuka. When you see a huge arena and the light is coming so far away, you know that this is not just a 60-watt bulb. You know this is a mega, mega, mega light that could bring the light that's so far. When we fill up a koisha bracha, it's a siman bracha when it pours over. Why? A siman that there's so much bracha, ad sheyivlu sifseseichem miloimer dai. Ari koisi lochem bracha ad bli dai, ad sheyivlu sifseseichem miloimer dai. That it pours over. The pouring over, even though it's 2 drops, it shows that the blessing is in abundance. Or for example, the Chassidus always talks about Shlomo Melech. Shlomo Melech, it says that he could speak shloisha salafim mashal. He could say 3,000 mishalim. What does it mean? He was a good storyteller? He could write 3,000 novels. He could tell good stories. What does it mean? Shlomo Melech could say, Shloisha Salafim Mashal. What's the inyan of the Shloisha Salafim Mashal? So the Shlomo Melech, the wisdom of Shlomo Melech was that something that was so obscure and so deep, he can bring it down to a lower level. He could bring it down to a lower world. He could bring it to a place where someone else can understand it, even though he was not in the oifen he didn't have the capacity like Shlomo Melech. And then he could furthermore bring it down. 3,000 levels. He can bring it down just like if you would say a regular teacher could teach a regular student. But to teach a gifted student, you need a super duper teacher, a great teacher. What's the greatness of a good teacher? He could feel and see the world of his students. He's not going to come into class and say a story about 2 + 2, which is conceptual and remote, and the kid doesn't understand. He's going to put 2 candies on one side of the table and 2 on the other. And he said, how many candies are here? Oh, candies. Kids could count candies. They want to know if they have a lot of candies from Shalach Monos, how they count from a birthday bag, how to count the candies. There's 2 candies. And now there's 2 candies. How about if you put together? And how about you divide? So the kids are learning it because it's in their world. So Shlomo HaMelech was able to bring it down to the lowest place. He was able to bring down a davar omuk b'yoyse, something that has unbelievable depth, to the lowest and lowest of places, because he had the oimek achachma in the biggest oimek possible. So kol hagavoya b'yoyse yoyde lamata b'yoyse. And there's another rule in Chassidus that no, it's tchilosim b'seifim b'seifim b'tchilosim. Now these 2 rules happen to be terrific stuff. And the Mitzvah Hashem, hopefully in the next 2-3 weeks, we will learn a few follow-up Maimorim that really go into the gribbling, the pilpul, and the lomdas of these 2 klolim, and the nafkaminas between them, and so on. But back to the Maimer here, it doesn't say that there's the ruach of the chayas plural. The ruach of the chaya. Why? Because the pasuk says the mus pneim, the 4 chayas, the mus was like this. There was pnei adam, and pnei adam. It didn't say yamin, smile.
Does anybody not hear the Rav? Does anybody not hear the Rav anymore?
No, we cannot hear.
I can't hear either. What happened? He ran away from the camera? Oh, here he comes.
Went to do a ticket.
I have a feeling something is wrong with this connection. No, it's on. We still can't hear you, Rabbi. No, we can't hear you. Oh, now?
Now can you hear?
Yeah, now we hear you. Now I hear you.
Okay, fine. Hello, Inyan. Shikadeli is a ruach daike. Mimokem el yemoid. Shemai lamata shavan lefonav. Ki mashu yoiser el yon yochalera l'spasha lamata. Dafka, what is in a higher place, could go in the lowest place. Zeu ruach hachaya hayadu b'chines klolus shaladalat chaya sheklalusana b'chines adam. Pnei arya la yaminu pnei sharma smoil mashenkem b'chines adam ein bo yaminu smoil. ולכן נקרא אדם אדם אל העליון, לא אדם שעל הכיסא. There is Yamin, there is Smoil, there is Emtza, there's Pnei Nesher, there's Pnei Aryam, and there is Pnei Shoyer, which is the right, the left, and the center, Ava V'yida, and Rachmonas. The Arya represents the Inyan of Riyah, Chesed, Ava. The Shoyer represents the Smoil, which is the Gevura and the Yidis Hashem. Pnei Nesher is like a Nesher that has Rachmonas, and Goizlov, Yerachev, Zinyanov, Rachmonas, and Midas Atiferes. But then there is Pnei Adam, which is, as in Yeshaya says, Adam Elyon. There is the Inyan of Pnei Adam, which is it's not Yamin, it's not Smar. Like the Zohar says, Lav Mikol Ilan Midas Iyu Klal. He's not Nitfus, he's not Yamin, he's not Smar, he's not Emtza, he's above all. That's the fourth face in the Chayus. In a commercial minion by Fanim Kanhu. Bechol say the Stalshus Murum Kol Dagim Shem Bechinis Kashia Oifim Betoich Oifim Shigel Amakev Eskol Mashalamata. Just what's happening here? In order for the godly light to go down and be a Chayus for the Efanim, the regular Darga of the Chayus HaKodesh can't lower themselves to be in the Efanim. In order for a godly light to go down to Efanim, it has to be the highest level within the Chayus HaKodesh. Not the Ruach HaChayois Loshen Rabim, the way the Chayus are Yamin Smoil or Emtza, but the highest Darga within the Chayus, which is not Nitfus and Yamin Smoil Emtza. Ruach HaChaya Boifanim. And that is a Klal Godel Bechol Ishtalshlus, the Dafke, the eagle, the bigger eagle could be makif everything that's in it. That's why the higher circle could create and come down to be lower than the smaller circle. The smaller circle can't come down all the way to the bottom. The higher circle can. And just like it happens by the Chayas and the Efanim, the whole Seder Shtalshlus works that way. L'chein b'chag Shavuos, which is Gilu Shara Chamishim, Shocher Memtes Yimei Sfira. Chag Shavuos is the Gilui of the 50th gate. There's 50 gates. Zman Matan Torah is the Torah has to come down to the lowest place. The Kedusha has to be infused into Dvarim Gashmim. Until Matan Torah, there was Torah, but the Torah couldn't permeate the Gashmias. There was no Kedusha in Trumas and Maisres. The Kedusha could not permeate the Gashmias, the good thing. In order for the Kedusha, Hachi El Yoinat, to come down to Mokim Hachi Tachtim, the highest of the high, to go to the lowest of the low, it has to be the power of the Shara Chamishim, the 50th gate. So there is, first the person has to go through Shehem, Memtes, Yemei Svirim Epchines, Zayin Shem Hashem Chokim. The 7 weeks, each one represents one of the 7 names of Hashem. Shehem, Bechines, Espashus, Malakolama, Lis, Bechines, Malamata, Roj Vedegel. The whole idea of a name is not the essence of a person. The essence of a person is not his name. A name is Einyan Chitzoni, Malchus, a Malakolama. So there is the 7 names of the Eibishter, which represents the 7 weeks, which a person working through the 7 names of the Eibishter, which is the first name of the Eibishter is Kael, which is Chesed, and the second is Elikim, which is Gvura, and the third is Avaya, which is Tiferes, and then there is Netzach V'Hoid, Shaka, and Tzvokis, and then there's Malchus, which is Adnai, and there is the way the 7 Midas are in Atzilus and in Bria, and so on. This is all the 7 names of the Eibishter. And Mitzad Memalakol Alma, as we're learning in the other Maamar, that we still are in middle of the Maamar of Nigdashti, there is Ischalkus and there is Islapshus, and therefore, because the godly light is more in Bria, therefore the Malachim there are in a higher level, and their Haskol and Elkus is much higher, as the Rambam explains the Chassidus that Torah, and in Bria it's less, and Yitzid is less, and Asi is even less. And therefore, there is a concept of Rosh Gufer Egel, and then Tachten Gnei Lael in Olam Haza. Avol Shara Chamishim, when we get to the 50th gate, it's the big wheel. Over there's no difference. The mile and the mata, it's all the same thing. And he doesn't emphasize here in this mind, but the idea of a wheel, there's no mile and mata. There's no beginning and there's no end. It's arbitrary where you put the beginning point and the end point. That's the idea of a Maagid. Through this Gilu of Shar Chamishim, the Torah can be given to the Mitzvah, which the Indian of the here is bringing the Ein Sof itself into Asiyas Gashmis, the highest of the high to the lowest of the low. So Indian Kesed Torah, Chazal say B'Chag Shavuos is connected to the crown, because the Torah says Vayisnatz L'bnei Yisrael Ased Yamar Chodev, and the Gemara says that B'Shasman Torah the angels came and they gave to the Eden 2 crowns. Echet Keneged Nasa, Echet Keneged Nishma. So the union of crown is a shaykhs to Matan Torah. Just the idea of a crown protects the head, and the idea of a crown is around the head. So its side has the idea of round, and side has the union of protection that surrounds. That's why it could go to the lowest place. Within the levels of Oifanim, there is the smaller wheels that orbit in a smaller space, and then there's the big wheel. There's the Oifan, Betoich, Oifan. As the Pasuk says, Moshe Yedaber, the first 2 dibber is the Eibishter said. The rest is Moshe Yedaber v'lekim yanenu b'chol. The house of Shaykh that the said is a dibris that should be given through, which is a gili of Mamish Elikus, the Eibishter himself. How can it come through Moshe Rabbeinu, who is a human being? The answer is called of Namar. By Moshe Rabbeinu it says, that he's missing a little bit of Elikim. Elikim in general is a shaykhs to Bina, and Bina is in general has a shaykhs Mem Tes, because there's Mem Tes Share Bina, there's Mem Tes gates in the Bina, and then there's the 50th gate. So he had Vatechasareu Me'at Melikim. Moshe Rabbeinu was choser a little bit. He was choser a little bit. He was choser for the 50th gate. And within the 50th gate is the lower darga and the higher darga. A little bit he had a shaykhs to the lower, but not to the higher. Because he was close to the 50th gate, he was able to bring out from the 50th gate, he was able to bring and to be have the thing of Moshe Yedaber v'lekim yanenu b'chol, to be megala the rest of the Seres HaDibris. L'chein himshech hayud gimel midas harachim. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu is mamshech the 13 midas of rachim. Just like Shara Chamishim is above Ishtal Shlus, is like the big wheel. Yud Gimel Tzarachim is similar to that. Is like it's higher than Ishtal Shlus, and therefore, even if a person doesn't deserve and is Molei Avoinus, it can be wiped away through the Yud Gimel Tzarachim. And the pasuk says there 13 meters of rachamim. Moshe Rabbeinu was mamshech. Pirish pasuk, according to the Zohar, is Vayavar Hashem Aponav Shel Moshe Vayikra Moshe. Again, here Api Zohar, Api Pnimis HaTorah, you read the pasuk straight. Meforshim in Pshat say, what do you mean Vayavar Hashem Aponav Vayikra? So they say Vayavar Hashem Aponav. And the Eibishter was Yikra. But the Zohar says, no, Vayavar Hashem Aponav, the Eibishter went in front of the Ponav of Moshe. Vayikra, and Moshe called out Hashem Hashem. Because Moshe has the koyach to be mamshech from higher than Ishtal Shlus. Sheheim, the Yud Gimel Mitzrachim are mekoyrim l'Ishtal Shlus Olam Asavatzilas B'ri Yitzir Nasiyah. So just like Moshe Rabbeinu was able to be mamshech, Yud Gimel Mitzrachim was able to be mamshech l'Shara Chamishim. And then the Maimon will say that that's why. And the Rebbe's Maimon, the Rebbe said, L'kovet Chag HaShavuos Tav Shalamed Beis. The Rebbe concludes and says that this is really, he says in the end of this Maimon, in every generation, like the Gemara says, Barovash Moshe Shapek Omed. So the Gemara, the other Ameram called him Moshe. Why they called him Moshe? They wanted to say, you're right. Your words as clear and as authentic and as authoritative as Moshe Rabbeinu. But the Pnimis Torah, everything is meduyik, because the Rosh Yeshivas in every generation and the Chacham Yisrael in every generation are the Moshe Rabbeinu, and they have the koyach to be mamshech from Sharanun. And that's the Inyan. That's Vemes. That's the Inyan of why we need to have Shavuos after counting, because we have to be mamshech Shar Hanun. We have to be mamshech the 50th gate in order to be able to bring down the kedusha. The highest of the high should permeate in the lowest of the low, and therefore it has to be from the Shara Chamishim, just like Ashaya Oifen Ba'otoicha Oifen. Just like within say the Shtalshlus itself, the bigger wheel surrounds the smaller wheel. The same thing, there is the Igul HaGodel, the big wheel, which is something that when you're mamshech, the biggest wheel, then you could say, and you could take the Oid Ein Sof itself and bring it down to the lowest of the low, and Taseres Adibris into Gashmi's the thing that the Kedusha could permeate Olam Hazeh Gashmi. Back to the story of the Maagid and the Alter Rebbe, and the Maagid inauguration. His first maamar that he said, and the Alter Rebbe, when he wanted to bring out the Inyan Chassidus, is, I'm saying now my own thing. This is not something in the maamar, but that seems clear to me that the question is, why should we be Megala Maisa Merkava to Klal Yisrael? Maisa Merkava is for a Navi like Yechezkel and Yeshaya. Why should we be Megala Maisa Merkava to Klal Yisrael? And the answer is that because if you want the Kedusha to permeate in the lowest place, which is the Avodas Hashem of the Yidden, right before Mashiach comes, the Ikvas of the Mashiach, they have to, the Perkei de Rebbe Elazar says that the Ekev is a Malach HaMovesh Adam. So we're talking in the lowest place, and we have to bring the highest Kedusha in order to bring a Mashiach Tzidkenu. So therefore there has to be a Gila of the Sharanun, there has to be a Gila of this, the high thing. And that's, by the way, Chazal say, that's why it says, Har Nevoy, Nun Boy. Moshe Rabbeinu, his last day, he was Zoicha to Mamish enter in the Shara Chamishim. But also, B'Shas Matan Torah, he was Zoicha, that even though Metachasreo Me'atim Elakim, he was missing a little bit, but from Elakim, which is Memte Shari Bina, which is Shaykh Hashem Elakim, but he was Zoicha to have it B'Shas Matan Torah, and through that, he was able to Mamshech Torah, which Torah is taking Oida in Sof, the highest of the high, and be able to permeate in the Gashmias, and the lowest of the low. Okay, we're here at the bottom of the column, and further in the maamar, the Alter Rebbe goes into the idea of Yud Gimel Mitzrachim, Oisach Chesed, Noitzach Chesed, difference of Avraham and Moshe Rabbeinu. So it's a little bit of a different inyan, and Mitzvah will continue the maamar. So again, I want to summarize that this is the maamar that the Maagid said, B'Shas he was Makabel the Nesiyas. This is the maamar the Alter Rebbe said when he was in prison. And the nekuda of the beginning of the maamar is that what is the pshat that Yechezkel Anov is so oifen betoicha oifen, that this is a thing that happens not only by the chayas and daifanim, but it happens in all the shtalshlus. In order to bring it down in a lower place, you need a higher koyach. In order for the chayas to come down to the daifanim, has to be the highest level within the chayas hakodesh. And the same thing in general. In order to bring down oid ein sof into this world, the highest of the high to the lowest of the low, you need to have a gilui of Shara Chamishim. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu, which was Tachasrei Ma'at Malakim, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to help the Yidden to be Megala B'Klal Yisrael the Koyach of Shara Chamishim. So definitely in every generation there's tzaddikim and Ma'odei Gedolei Yisrael Rosh Yeshiva that are the Moshe Shapakomet in every generation. So the Rebbe used to say always in the Friedrich Rebbe that, and I mentioned it last night, that the Tosfos and says in that Peites that on Shavuos the Chazal said the Malachim had tainus, but the Satan he didn't know the Torah was given. All of a sudden, what's happened with the Torah? How can he not know what's going on? And he had tainus. He said the Yidden are going to sin in 40 days. So he's smart enough to know what's going to happen in 40 days, but he's dumb and he doesn't see that the Yidden are getting the Torah. The Torah says that the Eibishter is matri the Satan. He gave him busy work, and he got him so busy he had no time to look and see what the Yidden are doing, and that the Yidden got the Torah. So the Friedrich Rebbe said, there's a beautiful long letter to Tamimim in America. It said, use up every moment Chag HaShavuos. Every moment of Chag HaShavuos is precious, because every year the Eibishter is matri the Satan. that the Satan gets busy, and he has no time with the Yidden. So this is a time to chaparein in avodas Hashem and to make achlotas tovas for the entire year. And definitely one of the things we should start thinking about is the union of Chumash Tilam Tanya. Because Chumash Tilam Tanya is a special shaykhas to Chag Shavuos. Chumash is Toras Moshe Rabbeinu, and Tehillim is David HaMelech, and the Tanya is Pnimius HaTorah, which is the union of Shavuos. Shavuos is the Zman Matan Torah Seinu, which is the Chamisha Chumash Torah, and it's the Zman Petitas David HaMelech, which is Nims Midas Yisrael, which is Tehillim, and there's also the Zman Istalkus of the Baal Shem Tov, which is the Gilu Pnimis HaTorah, V'yafutza Menasecha Chutza Kasa Marda Malka Mashiach. So the Rebbe always in Chag HaShavuos used to remind in the Fabrengens about accepting a Chlotas Tovas and Limud HaTorah, Mefrat, Balimud, Chitas, Chumash Tilam Tanya, Mefrat Nazman that we need to keep negativity away of Klal Yisrael. And the Pasuk says, Vayechitas Elakim al Haaretz, V'lo Yadov V'rachel Bnei Yaakov. That in order for the negative stuff not to chase after Klal Yisrael, the Segula is to learn Chitas. So Mela now is a good time to strengthen Achlotas Tovas and Limud HaTorah B'chlal, and Chitas especially. The Rebbe shall help that all of us should feel the Chashara Chamishim, we should feel it mamish, and the Rebbe should help that it should be Va'arevno Hashem Elokeinu, Dives Roscha Befinu, that we should take the field, the Mesikus HaTorah, and we should be Zoichet to Mekabel the Torah, Besimcha or Bepnimius.
Amen, amen. Amen.
Okay, Yeshikoyach very much to Rabbi Yoel for putting up with me in the last minute and sending out the stuff, and the Mara Mekoimus. Yeshikoyach for Peretz is sending out the schedule. I think now everyone has a schedule. The Eibusha will help that Mitzvah Hashem will work out the Tzada Yosef Tov. Baruch Hashem, we have Shnaim Shem Arba. We have plenty of rooms that we'll be able to accommodate for everyone for Minyanim. We're not going to do the drashas and the shiurim because we just learned the Chassidus, and Mitzvah Hashem, I'm going to send out a message l'Kovid Yom Tov, and we'll send it out soon. And but the Fabrengen and Mitzvah Hashem will do, because we have downstairs and upstairs, so we have 12 people could be on the first floor.